Hey, I just had a couple of thoughts today. I was reading this morning in the book of Jeremiah, and I just thought that there's a couple of verses that are copied, or not copied, but kind of restated in the Bible. And this has to do with our plans and God's plans and how that all works out. So this morning I read in Jeremiah 10:23, Lord, I know that people's lives are not their own. It is not for them to direct their steps. And Jeremiah is talking, and he's going through a really difficult time in the lives of the Israelites when they're not on good terms with God, and they're just having a hard time obeying Him. And so Jeremiah is sharing words from God to the people, and so he is sharing all this really difficult stuff, and then he's observing himself. He says, Lord, I know that people's lives are not their own. It's not for them to direct their steps. And it made me think of the verses in Proverbs that talk about that too. Proverbs 19:21 says, many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. And again, in Proverbs 16:9, it says, in their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. And so we see so often in the Bible where God is active in the affairs of people and in men and women. And so, we don't know a lot of times what the extent of that is. And but it's so interesting to think that, well, wow, I can plan ahead and I can do this or that, and I can, be smart or be wise with my money or be wise with my time. But at the end of the day, God God's perfect purpose is going to prevail. And it doesn't mean we don't plan, but it just means that I think we're open and we're, moldable and shapeable in God's hand. I think that's so important. So many people I see, try to go out there and have their plan, and they're going to do this by this time and have 5 kids by this time, and then they're going to be, millionaires by this time. And sometimes, God might have a different idea of what that's supposed to look like. In my own life, I thought that I was meant to be a counselor because I really wanted to help people, and I really wanted to understand some of the things that I was going through in my life at the time. But God had different plans. I started to seek out God, and God became real in my life. And when I started to seek Him, I started to see that maybe I wasn't called to be a therapist. Maybe I was called to something else. And so just trying to be open to that and saying, God, what is your will? What is your plan for my life? That completely changed my direction. But I think it was for the better, because now I feel like I'm on a track to still help people, but perhaps to help them more in the way that God had in mind for my life. I'm not saying it's bad to be a counselor or to have a passion for that or to do that. But for my life specifically, I feel like God might have wanted to move me a different direction. And if I was too rigid in my stance on what I was doing, I could have missed some of the purposes of God for my life. So I just want to encourage you in that thought today that, we'll make plans and we'll, think of things to do with our lives. But ultimately, it's God's purposes that prevail. And we want to be open to God, and His leading in our lives, and not just have like a set thing on paper, like it's in stone. I must do this by a certain time, or I must do this, or I must do that. You can make your plans, but let God breathe on those plans. Let God guide you where you're supposed to go. And I think that is what is, defines a person with success, marks a person for success with God and with people, when we're open to God's plans for our life. So just wanted to throw that out there, and I hope you're having a great day. I'll talk to you later.